In this week's Seder of Shalach, we know that we have the terrible, terrible sin of the Meraglim. Klal Yisrael, as we know from Sefer Devarim, requested of Moshe Rabbeinu that they be permitted to go see the land and study its terrain to understand the strategy that need be employed in conquering the land by the promise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe Rabbeinu turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He asks for permission. God says, "You want to go? Go. It won't be great, but you want to go? Go." Moshe Rabbeinu chooses a premier representative from each of the Shvatim, from each of the tribes. They go, and we know they come back and they say, "Indeed, it is a land of milk and honey flowing with endless brachos, but we'll never be able to do it. We'll never be able to conquer it." There are two exceptions to the Lashon Hara that is brought back by these Shvatim, and they are, as we know, Kalev ben Yefuna and Yoshua ben Nun. And in fact, when the HaKadosh Baruch Hu ultimately tells Moshe Rabbeinu that he will forgive the people as a whole and he will not destroy them and start over with Moshe, but rather he will permit the nation itself to go forward, seeing to it that all those who are already 20 years of age will not enter the land after the 40-year stint in the Midbar, sans Kalev and Yehoshua. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses this, no mention is made whatsoever of Yoshua ben Nun. Va'avdi Kalev, and my servant Kalev, Akev, because Hayaso Ruach Acheres Imo, he possessed another spirit, Vaymalei Acharoi, following me, Va'viyosiva la'aretz Shabbat Shama, then indeed I will bring him to the land toward which he will arrive, Vizaro Yerishena, and his descendants will inherit it. Rashi tells us, Ruach Acheres refers to the fact that he had a fake card, a surprise card up his sleeve. To the Meraglim, he said, Ani imchem be'etza, I share your feelings, and I'll share the report that you will present before Moshe and Aharon when you come back, saying we'll never be able to do it. Well, when push came to shove and they shared the report, he arose and he said, no, we can do so. But where's the mention of Yehoshua? Yehoshua is ultimately mentioned, but not at the time of the punishment of Klal Yisrael and the pardoning of Klal Yisrael. Where's the mention of Yehoshua? This question is raised not by Rashi, but by the Or Chaim HaKadosh. And listen to the far-reaching answer that he supplies. He says, we need to understand that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is referring to Kalev ben Yefuna, he doesn't say, Kalev Ekev Hayis Ruach Acheres Imo. He says, Va'avdi Kalev, and my servant Kalev. That's an expression that's reserved for Moshe Rabbeinu instead of Baloska. My servant Kalev, Ekev, because, says the Or Chaim HaKadosh, because he didn't simply have a different card up his sleeve, achas b'peh achas b'leiv, saying one thing to the Meraglim, but harboring his true feelings inside in his heart. But rather, says the Or Chaim HaKadosh, we need to understand that in each and every one of us, in each and every human being, by the creation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we need to appreciate that we have two Yitzarim. We have two very, very strong inclinations. And because we have two strong inclinations, says the Or Chaim HaKadosh, each one pulling us in opposing directions, we need to appreciate that it wasn't that Yehoshua went to Hebron and he alone prostrated himself by the Kivriyat Tzadikim of the Avos to pray, as Rashi learns, that he not fall prey, P-R-E-Y, to the machinations of the Meraglim, but rather, Kalev understood, says Or Chaim HaKadosh, that Yehoshua is not endangered, because Moshe Rabbeinu changed his name. He called Hoshea ben Nun Yehoshua, Ka Yoshiacha me'atzas Meraglim, that God should see to it that you will never be drawn near the plottings of the Meraglim. And indeed, Yehoshua wasn't. He went, and the entire time, he kept somewhat aloof from them insofar as their plannings were concerned. But says the Or Chaim HaKadosh, when it came to Kalev, well, that was a different story. Shenichnas begeder sakonas yetzer hara v'chevraso harasha'a, Vatochel ruach ra lefamo. Kalev heard the plottings of the Meraglim and what they were saying and what they were planning on carrying out and bringing back the maligning of Eretz Yisrael. Vatochel ruach ra lefamo. What they believed and what they planned started to resonate within him. And it beat within him. And because it did, and he recognized that each and every one of us has a Yetzer Hatov and a Yetzer Hara. And the Yetzer Hara was pulling so strongly within him toward the group of the Meraglim. Therefore, says Orach Chaim, the raya, the proof that it was pulling upon him was Sheholach, that it was only Vayavo, that it was only Kalev, not even Yoshua, none of the others who came to Hebron, Vinish Tateach al Kivros Avos, and he threw himself before the plots of the Avos and Imahos in order to what? In order to pray. That was all that which was already sounding within him and rumbling within him to join forces with them, that he should not give in to that Yetzer Hara. And therefore, says the Pasuk, Kadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Yoshua, of course, will go into the land, because he was never part of the Meraglim. But for Avdi Kaleba, my servant Kaleba, what made him my servant? Because indeed, because there was a different spirit within him that brought him near to share the feelings of the Meraglim, that would have understandably stood him by their side in their nefarious report presented before Moshe and Aaron, telling to the people, it's a wonderful land, but we'll never be able to conquer it. But notwithstanding that Yetzer Hara, that Ruach Acheres Imo, that was resonating within him, Vayamale Acharai, he nonetheless turned away from that evil inclination of the Yetzer Hara, Vayamale Acharai, and he became whole by moving over to the other side and filling himself with the fortitude to follow me. Well, then, says the Almighty, I will personally bring him to the land and see that his descendants flourish within its borders. We are to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're told, by Hashem Yisbarach and Kriya Shema. We recite it by Shachris, by Mariv, and before we go to sleep. We are to love him B'shnei Yitzracha, with both of our inclinations, the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara. For when we do so, Vayamale Acharoi, then already we move over to the other side, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Having felt the Yetzer Hara, we're not supposed to understand and to believe that we don't have evil inclinations. Of course we do. But we are to fight the fight. And we are to see to it that at times the Yetzer Hara can be used for good. And at times, indeed, we have to flee from it measurably. Standing by the side of a Yoshua ben Nun who never had to struggle and never had to fight a good fight. But when we do so, then we indeed are promised the reward by HaKadosh Baruch Hu as servants of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avdi Kalev. And ultimately, we are allotted portions, as it were, within the great treasure of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in this case, literally, Eretz Yisrael, to Kalev, the Chelek of Yehuda, ultimately awarded the place of the Beis HaMikdash. What an important lesson for all of us to understand in our daily lives when we struggle at times so greatly. And that's okay, because that's natural. It's inborn. And even Kalev did, but nonetheless overpowered that which was his to conquer. Have a wonderful Shabbat.